You finish your workout, and before you've even caught your breath, you're already thinking about protein. Not because you're hungry, because there's a clock ticking in your head. 30 minutes, maybe less. Miss that window, and you've probably heard you've wasted the entire workout. So people rush to their shaker bottles, drink protein in the parking lot, even carry tubs of whey in their gym bags because they're terrified of being late. It's one of the most deeply ingrained rules in fitness. Here's the strange part. For most people, protein timing barely matters. Yet scientists, elite athletes, coaches, and millions of lifters have argued about it for decades. If the answer were really that simple, this debate would have disappeared years ago. It didn't, because the real question was never, when should you drink your protein? The real question is, what actually tells a muscle to grow? Answer that, and the entire protein timing debate starts looking very different. The anabolic window sounds almost impossible to argue against. You train, your muscles experience stress, you feed them protein immediately, they recover better. It's clean, it's logical, and it's exactly why the idea spread through gyms all over the world. But biology has a habit of exposing ideas that sound obvious. History is full of explanations that felt perfectly reasonable until someone designed a better experiment. Protein timing is one of those stories, but the belief itself didn't come from nowhere. Researchers discovered that resistance training increases something called muscle protein synthesis, the process your body uses to repair and rebuild muscle tissue after exercise. Later, they found that eating protein also stimulates this same process by providing amino acids, the raw materials needed for reconstruction. Those were two genuine discoveries. Then came a third conclusion that almost everyone accepted without realizing it had never actually been proven. If lifting starts the rebuilding process and protein provides the building material, then consuming protein immediately after training must produce the greatest muscle growth. It was an elegant theory, it made perfect sense, and the entire fitness industry embraced it. There was just one problem. Almost nobody had isolated timing itself. Hidden inside the research was another variable that quietly influenced the results. And until scientists separated the two, nobody could honestly say whether people were growing more muscle because they timed their protein perfectly, or because something else was happening entirely. That hidden variable would eventually change the entire conversation. To answer that question, we need to follow what actually happens inside your body after a workout. Contrary to what most people imagine, your muscles don't start growing the moment you rack the last weight. They start preparing. Resistance training creates mechanical tension and microscopic damage to muscle fibers. That's the signal your body has been waiting for. It responds by activating muscle protein synthesis, a biological repair system whose only job is to rebuild those fibers so they're stronger the next time you face the same challenge. Think of your workout as calling the construction crew. The workout doesn't build the house, it simply tells the builders it's time to get to work. Protein plays a different role. When you eat it, your digestive system breaks it down into amino acids, which become the raw materials for that construction crew. Without enough bricks, the workers can't finish the job. But here's the detail that changed everything. The construction crew doesn't pack up and leave after 30 minutes. Muscle protein synthesis remains elevated for many hours after resistance training, and in some cases, for more than an entire day. That means your muscles aren't desperately waiting for a protein shake the instant you leave the gym. They're entering a long recovery phase during which they repeatedly use the nutrients available to rebuild themselves. Once researchers understood this, they began asking a much better question. Instead of comparing people who drank protein after training with people who didn't, they designed studies where everything else stayed the same. Calories were matched. Training programs were identical. Sleep and recovery were controlled as much as possible. Most importantly, total daily protein intake was kept equal. The only thing researchers changed was when participants consumed their protein. If the anabolic window were truly as powerful as people believed, these studies should have shown a dramatic advantage for immediate post-workout protein. But they didn't. As the experiments became more controlled, the famous anabolic window started getting smaller and smaller until, for most healthy people, it almost disappeared. Researchers noticed something fascinating. The participants who appeared to gain more muscle after drinking protein immediately weren't necessarily benefiting from perfect timing. In many of the earlier studies, they were simply consuming more protein across the entire day than the comparison group. Timing wasn't creating the advantage. Total daily protein was. This is the hidden variable. For years, it quietly sat inside the research, making protein timing look far more important than it really was. Once scientists accounted for total daily protein intake, the story changed completely. The stopwatch that everyone had been obsessing over suddenly became much less important than the amount of protein people were actually eating. It turned out that the body wasn't rewarding people for being perfectly punctual. It was rewarding them for consistently providing enough building material to recover and grow. Does that mean protein timing is a myth? Not quite. Like many ideas in exercise science, the answer isn't simply yes or no, it depends. There are situations where timing can genuinely make a difference. If you train first thing in the morning after an overnight fast, your body has gone several hours without dietary amino acids. Eating protein reasonably soon after training helps provide the raw materials your muscles have been missing. The same applies to athletes who train multiple times a day, when recovery time between sessions is limited. Delaying protein intake unnecessarily can reduce the opportunity to recover before the next workout. Older adults may also benefit from paying a little more attention to meal timing because their muscles become less responsive to protein with age, a phenomenon known as anabolic resistance. But notice something important. None of those situations describe the average person who lifts weights once a day, eats 3 or 4 meals, and consumes enough protein overall. For that person, chasing the perfect 30-minute window is like worrying about the color of the bricks before making sure you have enough bricks to finish the house. It's focusing on optimization before mastering the fundamentals. That's why modern sports nutrition has shifted its priorities. At the top of the list is total daily protein intake. If you're not consuming enough protein throughout the day, perfect timing won't save you. Next comes protein distribution. Rather than eating almost all your protein in one meal, spreading it across 3 to 5 meals gives your muscles multiple opportunities to stimulate muscle protein synthesis. Only after those 2 boxes are checked does timing become worth thinking about. And even then, it's more about convenience than precision. So the hierarchy looks like this. First, eat enough protein every day. Second, spread it across your meals. Third, if it's practical, have a protein-rich meal somewhere around your workout. It doesn't have to be the second you re-rack the weights. It doesn't require a stopwatch. It doesn't demand that you sprint to your shaker bottle before you even leave the gym. Because your muscles don't reward perfection. They reward consistency. The biggest gains rarely come from doing one thing perfectly once, they come from doing the important things well, over and over again. So the next time someone tells you that missing your post-workout shake by 20 minutes has ruined your progress, remember the hidden variable. For years, we believed timing was the secret because we were looking at the wrong metric. Once the evidence isolated timing from total protein intake, the mystery largely disappeared. The anabolic window never really vanished. It just turned out to be much wider than we imagined. If this video changed the way you think about protein timing, subscribe to Inner Lab. Every week, we go deeper than the surface and uncover what the evidence actually says.